Okay, I think I'm really ready for this one. Why do we celebrate Independence Day, 4th of July? Okay, on Independence Day. What does independence mean? Why? What? They talk about freedoms. What do we know? There was a girl that said she asked her teacher why we celebrate the 4th of July. Her teacher said, I'll talk to you later about it. What are you talking about? You talk to me later. Did you know children weren't allowed to get the education they needed? Do you know what okay. In the Israel coming out of Egypt, God would say, um, he said, celebrate the Passover because remember when the angel passed over your house. The tabernacles. You set up tabernacles in the wilderness going from the land of Egypt. Lay aside the manna, so you remember God sent you the manna. The rocks out of Jordan were put on dry land. You remember that God brought everybody across the Jordan River. And what he did to Jericho. But one of the most important holidays for the American people, you forget. Why did you blow up gunpowder yesterday? Why? Just so you could have fun blowing up gunpowder. Really? Why did you eat hot dogs? Why did you get together? Why? Do you know what the 4th of July means? Do you remember how the English government was not protecting the people from invaders, from their enemies in the colonies or their enemies in other countries? Do you remember how they were tried for crimes they did not and killed in very bad ways for crimes they did not commit? You remember they did not have any freedom. They had no freedom to talk about what they wanted to talk about. Talk, do their opinions, have their own opinions. The English government soldiers could go and take over your house, eat your food, and you had to find someplace else to be. They captured people to fight against the people in the colony. Do you remember Valley Forge when people died over the winter and did not go home? They could have. They could have left. They could have quit. Do you remember the power of George Washington? Do you remember how he was shot multiple times in the French and Indian War and in other wars too? Horses were shot over while preparing him to lead the country. Do you remember how people came to the country, to America, for freedom? They were being they were being imprisoned and enslaved, and killed in their countries for worshiping God the way they wanted to worship God. And they come to America and they're have to put up with the same things they have in their own country. The King of England don't want them to have freedom of religion or of their own personal belief. He paid taxes that were burdensome. He kept on adding taxes on taxes. He he didn't set up courts that were free where they could be tried by jury or where they even have a chance to defend themselves. Do you remember any of that? I don't remember a lot of either. I don't remember as much as I should either. But I know why. But America was set up for religious, political, and economic freedom. And the king was not allowing this. The king wanted his own people coming here, not people that wanted a place of refuge, as America was intended to be. And yet, people are ashamed. People are ashamed of our heritage. People are ashamed of George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, who in the Constitutional Convention said, if one nation can, if house divided cannot stand, how can one nation rise without God's help? If what's that verse? I'm saying the wrong verse. Anyway, he was saying we need to pray. If there was one person that was furthest from being a Christian, it was Benjamin Franklin. If unless the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. I think that's what he used, verse he used. So how can one nation rise without God's help? How can that happen? They were discussing it and discussing it for hours and hours and days. What are they going to do with this country? They tried many different ways. They studied. They spent years studying every government that ever had been recorded. They could lay their hands on. They discussed lay their hands on. They discussed for days what they were going to call the leader of our country, because all men are created equal, and the leader of our country is more, no more, no more important than you, me, or you. And yes, they believed the blacks and the Indians were equal. Many of the people in America didn't. And why didn't they address that in the Constitution? Because they thought that would cause more division. Maybe they should have, but they didn't know. They are ashamed today. They are ashamed of the shot around the world that made the American place where people could be free, free to worship God in their own way, free to have speech. Freedom of speech, freedom to the press, freedom to meet together and not worry about being arrested because we have an illegal assembly. Freedom to worship God in our own way. And yes, it was worshiping God. They had money. Had they had money. They had church services in the Congress. Church services. The very First Amendment was Congress shall make no law respecting the freedom of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. They have a right to peaceful assembly and petition of government for their grievances. I wasn't banned under the the they did not have a represent. They weren't allowed to represent. However, as representatives of the colonies to England, they weren't allowed. They were suppressed. I have a question for you. Yes, it would be obviously. Are you ashamed of America? Are you ashamed of what America stood for? But my question is more, are you ashamed are people ashamed of Jesus? Are they ashamed to of their beliefs, their personal beliefs, religious beliefs, or other beliefs? Are they ashamed? Are we in the church ashamed? Are we covering things so we don't act? So people aren't are afraid to come into our church, into our assembly? Are we ashamed, or are we willing to stand up and say, no, this is what I believe, like our founding fathers did? This is what I believe. This is the church I'm going to. This is the beliefs I'm going to have. This is what I believe. Are you ashamed of that? I don't know if I believe that the Pledge of Allegiance should be said in schools or not. I don't know if the flag should be flown at all. We don't represent the flag. The flag really represents us. The death of the people came. The pilgrims came from England. They, for the winter, had the ration of 1 kernel of corn. Maybe it was 5. And all winter. You should go some to see. They came for religious freedom, to worship on their own way, and many of them died. Many people risked their lives crossing the Atlantic Ocean and trying to set up colonies there in America for religious freedom. Many of them the Indians worked with help. Many of them. There were bad Indians too. But Indians were bad Indians. To come to a place, to form a place where we could worship God in our own way. And we're ashamed. We're ashamed of that. Why? So why did you set off fireworks last night? Maybe we should not be allowed to set off fireworks on the 4th of July. Maybe it should be a time of mourning of fireworks on the 4th of July. Maybe it should be a time of mourning. Maybe if we in Isaiah, I wasn't gonna go here, so I didn't have it ready, but I know what chapter it's in. Isaiah 1. Hear the word of the Lord, you rulers of Sodom. Give ear unto the law of God, you people of Gomorrah. To what purpose is this multitude of sacrifices? Saith the Lord. I am full of your burnt offerings in your hands, and the fat of fed beasts, and to delight not the blood of bullocks and lambs, or he goats. When ye come to appear before me, who hath required of this is your hand to tread on my corpse? Bring no more lame oblations unto the new moons of the Sabbath, calling it symbols. I cannot away with. It is iniquity, even as long as your new moons and your appointed feasts, my soul hateth. They are the trouble unto me. I am weary to bear them. And when you spread forth your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Yea, when you make many prayers, I will not hear you. Maybe we should change it in the day. Put in the 4th of July and Memorial Day and Veterans Day and Constitution Day in there. The Pledge of Allegiance and God Bless America. Don't sing God Bless America. I'm plugging my ears. Maybe God says that. I'm not going to bless America. Maybe God says that. Is God saying that? Is he? What does he do when he prays these? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which he stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have liberty for all? No. Are we under God? No. Do we have justice? Are people judged fairly, according to the law of the land, according to the rights? What rights? What laws? In the Bible. That's what rights the founding of our countries were concerned about. The rights told to us from the Bible. That's what they fought and died for. Has the flag become like the serpent in the wilderness? People looked up to it for healing, but now they worship. People looked up to it for unity, now they worship. What does the flag mean to us? Symbol worship? Symbol unity? Do you know what the colors of the flag mean? Actually, I don't either. This is probably some of my sermon messages aren't very passionate. I was trying to make shorter sermons. But I'm really passionate today, so I thought I should share it while I'm feeling the passion. We need to ask ourselves as an American, as a Christian, or whatever you are. As a Washingtonian, or whatever, as a Vancouverite, or wherever you live. I was born on the wall. We need to ask ourselves, are we really representing that? Are we ashamed? If you're ashamed to be in America, don't be here. If you're ashamed of Washington, go somewhere else. It's okay. You don't have to like America. You don't have to accept Jesus. You're gonna be lost. You're not gonna get the benefits of being a Christian if you don't love Jesus. which is eternal life, you're not going to get to live with everything if you don't love Jesus. But it's your choice. It's okay. You don't have to go to church. You don't have to. Don't. If you don't believe, don't. If you don't want. If you believe against it, don't. If you believe it's wrong, don't. You're not going to get the benefit. And the Bible says the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Christ Jesus. We have the benefit of being a Christian. We have the benefit of being American. You have the benefits of working for your job. But if you work at McDonald's and then are trashing McDonald's everywhere you go, I suggest you look for another job. Just a suggestion. Why aren't we willing to tell our kids where we came from? Isn't there one part of the history of the United States, one reason for the revolution? Isn't there one that we can say? Even if we were under England and we wanted to become our own nation. Even if it's that simple. Can't we tell our kids something? One thing. Are you serious? Can't even say one thing. That's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.